So you've picked up some REVOs or REVO A's for your Tri-Glide and freewheeler. You got them installed, but how do you set them up? Stay tuned. We're going to teach you how on this Tech Tuesday when we cover REVO and REVO A setup on the Tri-Glides and freewheelers. All right, so we're here at the Tri-Glide and we're gonna set up these REVO A's once we've got them installed. And we're gonna show you a couple of tips and tricks on exactly how to do that. Now, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is put a jack underneath the actual Tri-Glide frame, and you're gonna just raise that up just about until the wheels are just off the ground. That's gonna give us a fully extended shock length. And we're gonna take a measurement. If your tires were on at this point, that's totally fine. You're just gonna pick this center arch portion here of your fender, and you're just gonna measure from there straight to the ground. So we're getting 25 inches exactly, and that's letting us know that with a fully extended shock, that this is basically simulated to where it's fully extended without any sag or just weight of the Tri-Glide even sitting on it. So what you're gonna wanna do next is you can remove your wheels and tires, and then you're gonna support the center axle underneath that. That way, when you release that center jack, that is going to allow just the weight of the Tri-Glide or your freewheeler to be sitting down and just slightly compressing those shocks, but supporting that axle is the exact same as having wheels and tires on. The main reason we're doing it this way is so that without these wheels and tires on here, you can reach through the wheel well here and you can actually access the shocks so that you can adjust the preload on them up or down, depending on what you need for solo and two-up riding. So what we're gonna do here is we've got our starting measurement. Now we're gonna have a rider just throw a leg over this, and we're gonna measure how much they squat the suspension, and we are going to make an adjustment off of that. So go ahead and throw a leg over. And then we'll take another measurement here. So this rider is on the lighter side, and they're not really compressing the suspension a whole lot. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put clockwise turns into the spring, and that's gonna lengthen those. And when you lengthen that spring rate, it's gonna allow that shock to compress down further and farther so that we can hit that target sag range. And right now we're gonna be looking for about 3/4 of an inch because we do have the weight of this machine compressing that shock just a little bit. So we're gonna be looking for right about 24¼ inches when we're all said and done. That would be 25 with the weight of it sitting on it, and then he'll compress it about another 3/4 of an inch. Now, this is the exact same process you'd follow whether it's solo or two-up. You would either sit on it by yourself and adjust that coil so that it drops appropriately. We recommend doing that first, and then we use the logo on the coil facing out as a reference point. So you know every time you make that 360 rotation, your logo is facing back out towards the wheel on either side. So when you're putting a passenger on there, you're gonna, of course, if it's set for one person's sag and you add a passenger or you add a bunch of gear or a trailer, you're gonna need to increase that spring tension so that you're still getting the exact same amount of sag. And all you'll do is count the amount of turns that you put into each shock between solo and two-up, and that way you won't have to go through quite as much measurements. When you're adjusting between those two parameters, you'll know, hey, for this passenger that's regularly with me, it adds about 4 more turns. And in most cases, you're gonna be able to leave that in the shock and just ride it that way solo. It's a very comfortable spring. These spring rates are lighter than even a factory spring rate. So you're still gonna get a lot of plushness, but that coil has been accounting for the extra passenger on there. So we're gonna go ahead and make some spring adjustments here, and we're gonna lower that sag down. All right, so we've made a couple of adjustments to these coils on both sides. We've lengthened them so that it makes this shock softer so that our rider can compress it more. So we're gonna have our rider throw a leg back over, and then we'll take another measurement here. All right, so we've got our rider on. We're gonna take that exact same measurement, and we are at exactly 24¼ inches, which tells us from our starting measurement of 25 that this rider has now sagged that suspension exactly 3/4 of an inch. And it had about 1/4 of an inch of sag to begin with, which was just the weight of the tri-glide compressing those shocks naturally, just like if it was sitting on its wheels. And that's gonna give you a nice comfortable 1 inch of sag that you're looking for. The next thing that we're gonna wanna do is adjust the rebound. You can do this after you've put the wheels back on, or you can just reach through here and adjust them now. These shocks do work independently of each other, so when you adjust the rebound, you're gonna wanna make sure that both shocks are on the same setting. So when you reach underneath here, the number that's on the bottom closest to the ground is going to be the setting you're on. We would suggest starting on setting 3. That's going to be a good happy medium for comfort and performance. As you go up in numbers, that's going to slow the rebound down and generally will make your ride firmer. If you go down in numbers, that's going to speed up your rebound and it's generally going to make it feel a little bit softer. So a lot of personal preference in there. 3 is a good place to start. You can go up and down from there on those different settings. The next thing that we would do after we've adjusted that rebound is you can actually just put your wheels and tires back on. You can jack it up, remove the supporting axle jacks, and set that weight back on the wheels, and you can torque your lug nuts back down, and you're pretty much ready to rock and roll. That's gonna cover the entire setup process for the REVO and REVO A on tri-glides and freewheelers. Depending on which one of those models you have, this setup is exactly the same. Whether you're solo or 2-up, that setup is going to be exactly the same. You're looking for a target sag that is outlined in the install guide, and no matter whether you are 1 person on there, 2 person, or you've got a tour pack, trailer, or a bunch of stuff in the trunk, that sag is always going to be the target of where you want to be. So you'll just adjust that coil up and down to achieve that point, and it's always best to just count the turns between solo and 2-up. That way you know the exact adjustment that needs to be made, whether you're going from that solo or 2-up. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave us a comment if you have any questions, or you can shoot us an email, service@legendsuspensions.com. We would be happy to help you if you have any additional questions on that. Be a legend, and we'll catch you next time on Tech Tuesday.
Like and subscribe.